Hello guys, how are you? I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a woman telephoning a travel agent to book a holiday. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 7.
Hello, you're through to Go Travel. This is Darren speaking. How may I help you today?
Hello, I'm calling to book a holiday.
Great. May I take your name, please?
Yes, it's Greaves, Anna Greaves.
Is that G-R-E...
No, Grieves. And Anna is with double N.
Right. Thank you, Anna. Now, we're delighted you've called us. Can I ask where you heard about us?
It was your advertisement in one of the magazines.
Was it Holiday World?
Oh, yes, that's the one.
Good, thank you. It's useful to know.
Of course.
And did you have a particular holiday in mind, or was it a general inquiry?
I think I've chosen. I like the look of the one with the code FT4551. The right destination and the prices seem reasonable.
Right. Now, was it for yourself only, or...
Oh no, I want to go with a couple of friends, so there'd be 3 of us going.
OK. Now, there's a choice of dates, as you know.
Yes, I think, well, we've got to be back by the end of August, so if we say going on August the 16th, that would work fine.
No problem. And you can also choose the length of your holiday. There's, let's see, 7, 11 or 14 nights.
We thought the middle one would be great. Longer would be nice, of course, but...
Maybe next year.
Yes.
And you do need to have insurance.
Uh-huh.
We've 3 levels, Standard, Super and Super Plus.
Standard seems a bit basic. Let's say Super. That should be sufficient.
Fine.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 8 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 8 to 10.
Well, that's all good so far, and the availability's OK. Have you looked through the list of options? They're in the advertisement.
I have, and I've got the list here. Some of them do seem a good idea.
Which ones would you like to take?
In terms of the hotel, the offer of picnic lunches, we'd leave that. We'd rather go to cafes. I think a balcony for the room is a must. It's so nice to sit out, enjoying the view.
Oh, yes.
And then the trips. I think we'll pass on the night bus one. I never really enjoy the commentaries. And museums aren't really my sort of thing, to be honest, any more than dances.
Uh-huh.
But I like practical things, so I think the demonstration of local arts could be fun.
Yes, I would think so.
And then in terms of getting out of town, going up the river on a boat sounds delightful, and I wouldn't want to miss that. But the mountains, well, sitting in a coach on those winding roads.
I understand. OK, well, that's all I need for the booking at this point. Just a few details for you and then we'll check the payment.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear Joanne describing her home city of Darwin in Australia to a man called Rob, who hopes to go there. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Joanne?
Hi, you must be Rob. Nice to meet you. So, I hear you're planning to visit Australia.
Yeah, and I really wanted to talk to you because I was thinking of spending some time in Darwin, and my sister told me you're from there.
That's right.
So, tell me about it.
Well, where shall I start? Well, Darwin's in what they call the top end because it's right up at the northern end of Australia, and it's quite different from the rest of Australia in terms of cultural influences. In fact, it's nearer to Jakarta in Indonesia than it is to Sydney, so you get a very strong Asian influence there. That means we get lots of tourists. People from other parts of Australia are attracted by this sort of international cosmopolitan image. And as well as that, we've got the same laid-back atmosphere you get all over Australia, probably more so, if anything, because of the climate. But what a lot of the tourists don't realise until they get there is that the city's also got a very young population. The average age is just 29, and this makes the whole place very buzzy. Some people think that there might not be that much going on as far as art and music and dancing and so on are concerned because it's so remote. I mean, we don't really get things like theatre and opera in the same way as cities down in the south, like Sydney, for example, because of the transport expenses. But in fact, what happens is that we just do it ourselves. Lots of people play music, classical as well as pop, and there are things like artists groups and writers groups and dance classes. Everyone does something. We don't just sit and watch other people.
You said it's very international?
Yeah, they say there's over 70 different nationalities in Darwin. For instance, there's been a Chinese population there for over 100 years. We've even got a Chinese temple. It was built way back in 1887, but when a very bad storm, a cyclone in fact, hit Darwin in the 1970s, it was almost completely destroyed. The only parts of the temple that survived were part of the altars and the stone lions. But after the storm, they reconstructed it using modern materials. It's still used as a religious centre today, but it's open to tourists too, and it's definitely worth going to see it. Oh, and as far as getting around goes, you'll see places that advertise bicycles for hire, but I wouldn't recommend it. A lot of the year it's just so hot and humid. Some tourists think it'll be fine because there's not much in the way of hills and the traffic's quite light compared with some places, but believe me, you're better off with public transport. It's fine and not expensive, or you can hire a car, but it's not really worth it.
What's the swimming like?
Well, there are some good beaches, but the trouble is that there's this nasty creature called the box jellyfish, and if it stings you, you're in bad trouble. So you have to be very careful most of the year, especially in the winter months. You can wear a lycra suit to cover your arms and legs, but I wouldn't like to risk it even so, personally. And there are the saltwater crocodiles too. I mean, I don't want to put you off. There are protected swimming areas netted off where you'll be safe from jellyfish and crocs, or there are the public swimming pools. They're fine, of course.
Especially recommend.
Well, one of the most popular attractions is called aquascene. What happens is every day at high tide, hundreds of fish come in from the sea, all different sorts, including some really big deep sea fish. And some of them will even take food from your hand. It's right in the middle of town at the end of the esplanade. It's not free. I think you have to pay about $5, but it's definitely something you have to experience. Then, of course, Darwin has a great range of food, being such a cosmopolitan place. And if you don't have lots to spend, the best place to go is to Smith Street Mall, where they have stalls selling stuff to eat. There's all sorts of different things, including Southeast Asian dishes, which I really like. You'd think there'd be plenty of fresh fish in Darwin, as it's on the coast, but in fact, because of the climate, it mostly gets frozen straight away. But you can get fresh fish in the restaurants on Cullen Bay Marina. It's a nice place to go for a special meal, and they have some good shops in that area too. What else? Well, there's the Botanic Garden. It's over 100 years old and there's lots to see. An orchid farm, rainforest, a collection of palm trees, a wetlands area. You can easily spend an afternoon there. That's at Fanny Bay, a couple of kilometres out to the north. Then, if you've got any energy left in the evening, the place to go is Mitchell Street. That's where it all happens as far as clubs and music and things are concerned. You'll bump into lots of my friends there. Talking of friends, why don't I give you some email addresses? I'm sure they wouldn't mind.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You are going to hear a conversation between Jack and Mary, who are 2 college students. They are talking about the courses they should take. First, listen to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Mary. Got time for a coffee? I'd love to discuss what courses I should take. I'm so confused.
So am I. But maybe we can work something out together, Jack. We should really talk about this with our academic supervisor. But she's away until Thursday, which might make it a bit late to register for some of the more popular courses.
That's my worry. It's lucky we're doing the same major, so some of the courses will be the same and we can cycle in together. What did your parents say when you told them you would be an English major?
Well, Dad thinks I'm crazy. You'll never find a decent job when you graduate. Teacher or secretary, that's about all you'll be good for. But he's an engineer, so what would he know?
What about your mum?
Oh, she loves reading and has dreams of me becoming a great writer or something, so she's all for it. What about your parents?
Actually, they agree. They're both teachers and are always moaning about the terrible English of most of their students. They blame it on computers, computer games. To be exact, very few of their students ever read novels.
Anyway, Let's have a look at some of these courses. I thought of taking Latin. People say it'll train my brain and help with French and Spanish as well as English.
I think that's nonsense. It's a dead language. If you want to learn Spanish or Italian or something, then learn it directly. I did Latin at high school, and apart from helping me guess the meaning of some new words with a Latin root, it was a waste of time. Leave Latin to archaeologists and theologians.
Guess you're right. Okay, no Latin. Actually, I'm playing with the idea of doing journalism later. Foreign languages are always useful for a journalist. Maybe I'll take oral French.
As the conversation continues, answer questions 27 to 30.
That's exactly what I was thinking. What are the lecture times?
Let me see. French 100, 9 to 12 Monday mornings in Language Lab number 2, and 2 till 5 Thursday afternoons in Lecture Hall A5. I think they're both in the Arts Faculty building.
They are. I checked the language lab out yesterday. Very modern and not too big. Room for about 30, so the teacher will have more time for individuals. Not like that 50-seat place in my old school. Okay, French 100 it is. What next? I was thinking about creative writing 201. What do you think?
That's one of our set courses, stupid. We have to take it along with History of English, Early American Literature, and Sociology 100.
Damn, I forgot. So including French, we'll be doing 5 courses this term. How many classroom hours is that all together?
Let's see. History of English, 3 hours every Tuesday morning. American Lit, 2 till 5 Tuesday afternoons. Creative Writing, 9 till 12 Wednesday mornings. Sociology, 2 till 5 Friday afternoons. That makes 18, including 3 hours in the language lab.
Sounds enough to me, especially in our first term. And the times won't interfere with my swimming team training. All work, no play makes Jack a dull boy.
You certainly need that creative writing course. Let's drink our coffee.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear a lecture on bird migration. First, you will have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
My lecture this evening will focus on the migration of birds. That is, how birds fly in big groups from different parts of the world at certain times of the year. In the first part of the lecture, I'll talk about the reasons why birds migrate, when they migrate, and which parts of the world they migrate from and to. To start with, why do birds migrate? Well, there are 2 main reasons. 1, they migrate to look for food, and 2, they travel to parts of the world that are more suitable for breeding. In fact, these reasons are closely linked. As you can imagine, when birds are breeding, they need extra food to feed their young. And in the spring, in the cooler climates of Europe, there is a lot of food for birds, especially insects. So generally, during the spring, birds fly up from the tropics, which are hot, to cooler climates in the north. They stay there for a few months to bring up their young. And then, when the weather in the north gets cold in the winter, They fly back to warmer climates in the south. Now I'd like to talk a bit about how global warming has affected bird migration. One of the effects of global warming has been to make the spring come earlier in the northern regions of the world. When spring comes early, the plants and insects that birds need to bring up their young are also available earlier. Research has shown that quite a lot of birds have started to migrate earlier because of higher temperatures. But unfortunately for some species, this hasn't been early enough. What I'm saying is that birds that are travelling a long way for breeding may arrive too late to find enough food to feed their young, and their population drops drastically. Scientists are currently researching more about this. Now, I thought I'd finish by just briefly describing a few different patterns of migration. Migration varies with the type of bird and the area they come from. For example, one kind of migration is partial migration. This means that some birds in a particular species will migrate and others won't. It usually depends on how the weather affects food supplies, and very often happens in the tropics. In another migratory pattern, a bird called an Arctic tern migrates the whole length of the globe from the North Pole to the south. The Arctic tern travels between 12 and 15,000 kilometres each way when it migrates in a complete circle around the world. It's quite amazing. Right, and lastly, I'd like to mention a pattern which isn't nearly as spectacular, but is very interesting. And this is the way many birds migrate across North America. In this pattern, the birds fly northwards in the west of the country and then back south again in the east. So, if you imagine it, they're actually migrating in a circular pattern, like the hands of a clock, not in a straight line, as we might think.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you cut guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.